Data admin exercise number 2, manual aggregation and manual standardisation. As a precursor to this exercise, we recommend you first complete exercise 1, which introduces all the basic concepts required. In this exercise, we're going to learn how to create a dataset within Origin, which requires manual aggregation and standardisation of data. All supporting material is available in the training theme on the Doric system. So first of all, we're going to do is look at the structure of the data that we want to import into the system and make sure that it is fit for purpose. So in this example, we're working with a dataset containing domestic fire incidents. And the first thing we need to do is examine and see, is it suitable for importing? Well, I can see that we have a geographic reference in column C, and that we have various indicators in D, E, and F. So yes, it is suitable. Examining the rows, we can see that it covers wards, and down at the bottom we also have district level data. However, I can see that row number 208 is blank, so I should first of all delete that row. This is because Origin processes all data within the spreadsheet until it reaches a blank row. Also, we've got a column at the end where we want to place the rates. So in this exercise, we want to manually rate the data before uploading it. So in this example, I'm going to create the calculation within Excel that's going to produce the rate, which is going to be equal to 1,000 dwellings divided by the denominator multiplied by the actual value. So in this case we have 19.46 rates of domestic fire per 1,000 dwellings. And I'm just going to copy that calculation into all other cells in this worksheet. And that's it. That is this worksheet prepared. Before I save it, I'm simply going to rename this worksheet to data. I can call it anything I want, but for consistency I prefer to use just the worksheet name data. And I'm going to save it as a different name. So I'm going to save it as exercise 2 prepared. The next step is to actually create the dataset in Origin. So to do this, I'm logged into the system and I've gone to under the data admin to manage datasets, where I'll find all templates that are available to me, which I will use as a starting point for creating my dataset. And here I'm going to look for a template that suits me, which I'm looking for something that's going to cover the old and new Cheshire regions, and I want it for local authorities plus 2005 wards. So we have, and once I've located the template that I require, I simply click the copy and confirm links, and then I'll be presented with a new dataset that I can start completing. So in this example, I'm going to call it accidental domestic fires. I'm going to put my initials at the end. Just for training purposes, we recommend you do that so that you don't get confused with other training data sets. We're going to leave it in the test data theme. Again, we're going to leave it standard variables, and we're going to change it to both options just to make it easier for the end user to locate the data. Now aggregation, we're leaving it to none because the aggregation is manually done external to the system. In other words, it's already done in the Excel spreadsheet. The source, we'll just pick ONS again. For frequency, I'm going to pick 5-year pooled data. And for standardization, this is where we specify the method of standardization. Now, because we're doing the standardization external to the system, we pick manual or other. And the ranking method, there's only one available currently, which is rank regions by type. And just that's the minimum metadata requirements. Obviously, you have private notes and so on, which I described in more detail in the previous example. So I'm just going to save changes now. In terms of standards and geographies, we don't need to do anything. We're using standard ONS codes, so everything should match up. So I'm going to go ahead and configure the variables at this stage. If I click the variables tab, this allows me to create new variables. And we have to decide, as usual, how to structure each of the variables and dimensions in the data set. So I'm going to first of all create a new variable, and we'll call this one just accidental domestic fires. The standardization and ranking should be the same as what was specified for the data set. However, I can go ahead and change these options for each variable if need be. This is useful if I'm creating data sets where I want one variable to be standardized but the next one not to be. And for categories, I'll just put it into community safety. And we'll save our changes. We've now got to add in the different dimensions, and it's up to us. If we look at the structure of the data set, we have dwellings, we have the actual counts, and now we have the rate as well. So we have to decide, do we want to bring them all in? And I think in this case we will. So this time I'm going to click the insert dimension icon, and the dimensions form has got slightly more to it compared to the previous one. I'll take you through each of these. So for dimension name, the first one is just going to be number of dwellings. It's a whole number. Code is going to be D, because that's the, if we look at the Excel document, that's the column that we're mapping to. Null description we can leave blank. We want to make sure that the value is shown. However, we're not going to show the rate. There's no rate associated with the number of dwellings itself. And we'll just save those changes. We'll then insert a second dimension, and this one we'll call number of accidental domestic fires. Again, it's a whole number, and the code is going to be E. We'll leave the null description blank. This time we're also going to show the rate and rank. We can decide is one is high or low. In this case, one is a low value. The rate label, we can actually put in text that will appear in the column header, so we'll call it accidental domestic fires per dwelling. Rank label we can leave blank, and we will save our changes. And that's all we have to insert in terms of dimensions. You might think, well, why don't I need to insert a third dimension for the actual rate? Well, the reason for that is that we're actually storing the rate and the value in this one indicator here called number of accidental domestic fires. So I'm going to simply return to the dataset, and this is where I'm now going to actually configure and upload the data. So if I click the import data, and we can examine the data set again to see that this time data starts in row 2 and geographies are defined in column C. So we'll put 2 and C. We'll save our changes. We only need to add one worksheet called data. And you can see that as soon as I've done that, it's picked up the 2 dimensions and already mapped columns D and E. So we need to map column F for the rate, and we'll save our changes. Same rules apply. I can go and change the geography references if I needed to. However, in this example, we don't need to because it's standard ONS codes. So I'm going to go into the import tool. I'm going to pick an appropriate time dimension. I'm going to browse and select the prepared spreadsheet. Make sure I don't take the original. The prepared spreadsheet has the extra configuration in it, and run the import process. And again, it may take a few minutes, but usually only a few seconds, and it's completed. At this point in time, we can then go and examine the security. We can define who should have access to it, so we're going to make it available to other training users. We're going to put it in the test data theme and under the training portal. So we're now ready to preview the data. So we'll go to the data browser where all data sets are listed. Within here we can easily find the data set that I've just uploaded, accidental domestic fires. If I'm interested, I can actually preview the metadata, or I can go straight into all the data, and a quick examination should show me that the data matches. So here we have Acton 13 UDGD. I go to the Excel document and again look for Acton. I can see Acton Ward here with 885 dwellings, count of 2, which produces a result of 2.25, and in the system that's 8852 rounded up to 2.26. So that appears to work. And that completes this exercise of manual aggregation and manual standardization. At this point, like in any other data set, I can go and change the security settings and make this data set available to a wider audience if required.